thank you very much for selecting my talk. And I'm going to talk about how to maintain an awesome relationship between designer and stakeholder. So the presentation may be a little different. We can imagine a relationship of those two people as a chat messaging app. We get a follow-up message, a request, a question, something like that. And doing our best, we want to reply as soon as possible with a solution that is ready, present at our hands. But the reaction, it's not that we expect it at all. Can we make it pop? Yeah. The game of ping pong, misunderstanding and conflicts begin between different people. And I personally think that what sets the best designers apart from the others is that they care about how the design is perceived as well. So let's now get to know what I'm going to talk about today. There will be 3 different chapters of this presentation. The first one being in the right conversation, making sure that we are actually discovering right opportunities to implement. The next one, taking care of getting our message across, how to actually showcase our work so it's perceived in the best way possible. And the very last one, but the most important one, how to lock in an agreement and maintain responses and feedback that we collect from people from our organization. Hello, now let's get to know the participants of the conversation. I'm Jakub Dziedzic, lead product designer at Ramp, when I'm mostly responsible for managing business end of the relationship of our app and doing stuff from, on the design process from end to end, basically delivering value at every stage of it. What is Ramp? Because you may not be familiar with it. So our mission is to make Web3 a reality. And I will explain it in the simplest and shortest way possible, so it's not a selling pitch or anything like that. So on one hand, we have traditional money, fiat. Think of euros, pounds, and dollars, for example. On the right-hand side, we have crypto assets that enable you to buy goods on the internet, truly own those goods, become the owner of them, and actively participate as an internet user in Web3. So you can think of Bitcoin, for example, or Dogecoin. The process of buying those is called on-ramp. The process of selling those is called off-ramp. So easy as it may seem. We are available globally in over 150 countries all over the world. And we are implemented by hundreds and hundreds of businesses, such as web browsers, play-to-earn Web3 games, and digital wallets. What tools are making this possible? First of all, heart and soul, the widget. Widget allows you to buy and sell those crypto assets using multiple payment methods in secure, transparent, and self-custodial way. But widget is just the tip of the iceberg, as every single partner gets their own version of the widget, which is personalized for their solution. And speaking about partners, they also get the access to so-called partner portal, their very own command center, where they can, among many, manage their integration and analyze essential volume and revenue data, allowing to make strategic and marketing decisions. And last but not least, the back office app, my beloved one, as I mostly work on that one, which is used exclusively by our employees as an internal tool to have a detailed overview of the transactions and increase efficiency of all of our operational activities, such as reviewing transactions, catching fraudsters, doing some refunds. So I'm directly responsible for the last 2 tools. And that's enough about Ramp. Now let's get back to the stakeholders. So to make sure that we are all on the same page, let's see who is a stakeholder. So the dictionary definition would tell you that those are the people that are interested in the outcome of your project. Most of the time, those will be the people that are influenced by it, will change the way they work, behave, or even live. And let's follow this up with an example. At Ramp, we can say that we have 6 groups of stakeholders. First one, customers, people that are buying those assets or selling them. Partners, companies integrating our solution. Next up, government. This cannot be overlooked, as we are highly influenced by it. Different governments come with different regimes, different regulations, and if we want to exist as a business, we need to apply ourselves to those. Then, internal stakeholders, such as teammates, people that we work really closely with. You can think of other designers, developers, data engineers, or product managers. And then, so-called the top executives. If we take into consideration company structure, those are the people that are influencing our decisions as much as our decisions influence theirs. And the last one, the most important for me, employees, as I mostly work with them and collaborate with them, engaging them into different activities, making sure their life gets easier day by day. And this last group is also split into different groups of interest. I will call them ops agents, standing for operational agents from now on. And they are split into different groups. Those are just the most numerous ones, such as customer support people that are talking with the customers, technical support people, risk agents. And each of these groups has their own agenda, own needs, and different motivations. They want different features to be implemented at a different time. They imagine those features to work differently. And if you just take a look at the common areas between them, it may be a little bit overwhelming. So when I joined RAMP, and it was almost 1 year ago, I found a great resemblance in a myth of Sisyphus. But to make sure it's portrayed accurately, the stone gets bigger and bigger every time it drops. Because I learn more about our users, and that's a good thing, actually. Because I have more possibilities to act on, I better understand them. And I also knew that I needed to change the way I was thinking. So I was really focused on how, on different processes, methodologies, tactics, tools, such as you see on the screen. But I thought that should be less of how and actually more of why, more of this understanding, less being obsessed with processes themselves. So that's why I would like you to present with, for me, 4 most important factors of the product designer mindset. So first, stop thinking in outputs. Define the success by what you ship, but think about the value it brings to the table, the impact it makes. Become outcome-oriented. The next one, once you will be identifying different assumptions, gather evidence about your users, those will be just the basis for the experiments that you will test. Don't settle for the first idea. Become experimental as well. And each of us, even when I talk about it, may have different way of understanding what I'm talking about. You visualize it differently. So if you can, draw, visualize, and map what you know for others. Become visual. And lastly, everything what I will be talking about today doesn't really make sense if you don't do it continuously and implement it throughout the whole process and not only just at the beginning. Well, when you are starting a project, you may think, okay, what should I ask about when I'm starting it? Or a small initiative, an experiment. Someone may say, well, are we taking responsiveness into account? Or do you have a brand book or a design system that I can use? Or maybe, what about accessibility? It's very important nowadays, right? Or the greatest classic of all, when is the deadline? But the real question that you should ask yourself and the others in your team, for example, is, what outcome are we trying to achieve? This is the question that summarizes every single question that you may have. And I was underlining that word throughout previous slides, because this should be a focal point for you, the outcome. Let's take a look at its definition. So to put it simply as it may be, the impact is just the result of some actions taken. So you may think about the impact being made by someone by doing a certain thing. And now I would like to present you to one idea, let's say, which is called opportunity solution tree, created by Teresa Torres, author of the book Continuous Discovery Habits. If you're a product manager, if you're a product designer, please have it on your shelf. It's one of the best books that I read in the recent years. So, when we put outcome at the center of the attention, and we start with it, with the effect, the impact that we want to achieve. For example, average review time of the transaction should be decreased to just 100 minutes per one. And that may lead to different opportunities that we will explore, find, discover during our research, interviews, stuff like that. For example, those are all real quotes coming from the interviews that I held. Missing proper context when investigating a case, or readability of transaction statuses is useless for me, or everything is just stored in one bucket. So every time someone mentions a problem, idea, or even a solution, that triggers an effect of storing it as an opportunity, which leads just naturally, and we will just focus on one example from now on. Oh yeah, and just to make sure that you understand it the way I understand it, that was the existing status of the tooltip telling a little bit more about the status. So, okay, there's an actual error, and it needs to be reviewed by the dev team. You don't know anything about the reason for this error, you don't know what to do with it, and you are just creating another process between two people. So one takeaway from this can be the best optimization of the process is to actually remove it completely. So that was what we were aiming for here. This all leads to a certain solution. For example, improving UX writing of those that maybe crossed your mind, or including sub-statuses that actually make the main one that you previously saw. This also leads to different experiments. Different experiments. Let's just say we have 2 of them. And just to visualize it with an example from my side, when I was cooking this perfect solution, I had 3 different ideas. First one, maybe we can implement those sub-statuses and give them a separate description for each one of them. Or maybe we can just summarize what we know, unify those 3, and display it for the user. Or maybe when we think about experts and more professionals that are working rather long in our company, maybe we want to present only the contextual message whenever it's needed and remove the description at all. Well, crafting and validating those experiments, we ended up joining some of them and eventually improving both UX writing as well as displaying the sub-statuses. Coming back to continuous discovery tree, if someone wants to take a photo once again, we start with the effect that we want to achieve. That leads to different opportunities that we collect continuously. And now, how to collect those? A quote coming from, supposedly, from Henry Ford, because there's no real evidence that he ever said that. But no matter what, let's focus on the quote itself. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And I don't agree with that statement. If you just thought that there'd be another cliche slide from the conference, it's not like that. I think what is wrong with that, it's not like we should look for a certain solution, but we should find an underlying need, a desire of people that was not yet materialized, which in that case was just getting from point A to point B in a much quicker and more comfortable way. A car, Ford Model T, was just an outcome of this process. Another quote coming from, maybe you know this guy, Steve Jobs. People don't know what they want until you show it to them. The very similar quote to the previous one. And actually, it has a different meaning because it's followed by this sentence. Our task is to read things that are not yet on the page. What Jobs meant here is that we should be the inventors our customers rely on. They don't always know what they want, but what is more important, they don't have the capability to express it in the right way. That's our job. So what can we learn from those 2 gentlemen? The purpose of an interview, most and foremost, is not to ask what you should build. Remember that. The purpose is to observe the user's behavior when we ask them to show us how they would do something. So for example, let's take buying shoes as a process. Instead of asking, what is important for you when you buy your shoes? The brand, are they comfortable? Ask about what it was the last time when you were buying those shoes. And as Iga previously mentioned, look on their behavior. So that is important, not on what they are saying. That gives us an ability to discover new opportunities and explore new paths that weren't discovered yet. So once again, look for the needs, pain points, hidden desires as your possibility to impact people's lives in a positive way. And if we imagine an interview as a metaphor for a pipe where the flow of water just circulates as a flow between you and your respondent, sometimes this pipe leaks a valuable insight. Make sure you are there to collect it with a bucket and store it, as the girls previously mentioned, with, for example, this tagging mechanism. But interviews are just a qualitative source. This is not the only way of getting insights of opportunities. If there's qualitative, there's always quantitative as well. So, of course, quantitative is about data. Data insights about products that you collect on demand from your data team, or some internal newsletters. For example, at Ramp, we have something called Data Weekly. And data is your ally. Use it to your advantage. Prepare the data or research findings that you have, analytics, usability reports, user testing results that will support your proposal. And I will give you two examples from the opportunity called local currencies. So if we imagine a country, for example, Poland, buying cryptocurrencies with Polish zloty. So when we were thinking about which filters usability to improve, we selected filtering by local currency as one of the potential candidates. But as the data shows, that contributed to just 0.28% searches in the last 30 days in our product. So probably not worth it. We can switch our focus to something that is more important. Usability testing also can help you in deciding which solution, which experiment to select. We had this assumption that we wanted to test that our agents don't really need to know every single abbreviation, acronym for the local currency by heart. For example, CZK is Czech koruna. And it was just like that, and the proposed solution worked just fine. It felt very natural for them, and this is something that we actually implemented. And as a great statistician and professor, William Edwards Deming said, without data, you are just another person with an opinion. So use your numbers, back your proposal with them, and just use it to your advantage. Coming back to the chart, there's also our own design intuition coming from experience, for example, so-called bets. Let's say own hypotheses based on observation, ideas coming from different team members, or internal competitions, hackathons. We have the People Award, where we vote for the best ideas from the whole company, or the Creative Week, where we work on whatever we want, unless when it's work-related. And all of those power up the engine of product opportunities, which we discuss bi-weekly on team refinement sessions. Next up, this is linked to assumptions, validations, set of hypotheses that you need to validate to make sure that you form a test around of them, and that allows you to get results that you can actually measure. And on top of that, I mentioned executives. Remember, they also have the influence. In our case, it's OKR planning, which influences also what we are building within every quarter or cycle. And you are doing all that. Everything that just makes our living, our bread and butter, interviews, research, all of this crazy stuff. And still, the results are not the way that you expect them to be. There is still disagreement between team members. And you know why? As Kobe Bryant said, after being up 2-0 with the Lakers in 2009 finals, job's not finished. Job finished? I don't think so, because there's still plenty to do. Let's dive into the next part of this presentation with a short nature film that I prepared.
Oh, what a wonderful creature. I wonder what it is up to do.
That's a hippo, which stands for highest paid person opinion. Let's continue with the observation of this majestic species.
There goes another one, a cute little bird. Yikes. Well, let's leave it and let it enjoy swamping in the lake of its own ideas, I guess.
Okay, I got a laugh, so that was the intention. A hippo, highest paid person opinion. Once again, I'm sure all of you got this one particular person in mind when you saw that picture. The problem is, everyone in the team has an opinion about what we should build and when, and it's hard to win opinion-based battles with people higher in the corporate hierarchy than us. And there's us, sitting at the coast, watching different hippos swamping in the lake, poured our whole heart and soul into those designs, taken all the time in the world to think about their perspective, and even understood why our design don't really work the way it's supposed to work. And as all people, we have our own desires, to be heard, to be trusted, and most importantly, to be valued for our work as well. Because those are deep-rooted desires in every human being. And sometimes we miss that kind of ownership because of organization hierarchy, because of those hippos. What you can do? Bring new information to the table. Don't focus on making the decision on your own at all costs. Bring new info that will, let's say, disrupt it a little bit and allow more senior stakeholders to make a better decision. Yeah, and when you are surrounded by different people, and each one of them has this different opinion, you may wonder, why is that? Why is it like that? What's the nature of it? And I spoiled it a bit, but it's because a design is a subjective field. And if you feel betrayed, it's the same with food, music, movies. You don't need to be a perfect cook to tell that you really like the dish served. And no matter if you are a junior, senior, lead, unicorn, on whatever title you want to slap on your LinkedIn profile, it won't change. Unfortunately, it won't change. If you still won't believe me, you can do this little experiment. Ask your fellow colleague, someone that you come at the WasteCon with, what makes good design good? And if you're a manager, that's also a good question to ask on the job interview as well, because everyone has their own opinion on that topic. So I brought two designers with me, Dieter Rams, Johnny Ive. And each one of them has their own opinion on the topic. Dieter would say it's about innovation, usefulness, longevity. Johnny would say it's about simplicity, clarity, efficiency. And those are all great answers, but certainly this is also different from how stakeholders perceive them as well. Because once again, the design is subjective. Someone likes one thing, the other one hates it. That's why design is so difficult to talk about, and that's why we are at this conference and we have so many different topics and different people sharing their opinions on them. And there are some undeniable truths, and I want to share them with you. 3 pillars of successful design, my own thinking. And we'll take a look at them through an ancient Greek lens. Each one will be represented by a sculpture, so you can consider this like a fusion between design wisdom and a brief art lesson. The first one, solving a problem. So you may think that you are just drawing rectangles for life, but you are actually solving people's problems. And it will be represented by the thinker. And I know that's not exactly a Greek sculpture, but it just matches the topics perfectly. Because it embodies the deep contemplation each one of us undergo to address challenges for our users. No matter what tool you use, at which level of the design process you sit at, you are solving people's problems. One tip, a side note that I got for you, link your solution to a problem, but also to a metric that can be easily compared. Getting more impressions, better conversion rate, pick something, set it as your goal. The next pillar, make it simple, or making it simple. It's about the users. It will be presented by the Nike of Samothrace. Stands for victory and success, but also forward momentum that symbolizes seamless experience and effortless one. Business metrics are important, but if the proposed solution doesn't really work for the end user, don't forget them, we can say we have achieved expected outcome. And the last one, get support. Getting support, represented by the Leo Kun group, which depicts Leo Kun and his sons struggling against sea serpents, illustrating the challenges one might face and the importance of the collective effort and support to overcome obstacles. So we can get quick on our own, but we won't get really far. So getting support is all about convincing people to trust us with the solution and with our expertise. And it may be a little bit, so my tip for you is to build your group of influencers, but not this kind of influencers. I'm talking about people who are within your immediate influence that you see and interact and work with every day. And as I said, it may be a little bit stereotypical, but I selected 3 different groups that probably are the most popular ones among our jobs. First one, business people. You may think that they don't have the time, always. But it's not about executives or senior managers that they have a lot on their plate, but it's less about being them too busy, but also about their brain capacity. If they enter your meeting and they don't remember where you left off last time, that creates a problem for them. So they will really like if you prefer strict, concise information that helps growing business by solving problems and accomplishing goals eventually. The next group, the developers. Yeah. They will thank you if you reuse existing patterns as much as possible, automate their work, understand the effort that needs to be put into those solutions, and cover all cases up front. So they don't need to ask you once again, what happens if this label is longer than just one line? And the last group, product people. For example, product managers. Well, if your organization is large enough to have a dedicated product manager, working with them will be your bread and butter, something that you do on a daily basis. The good news is, those are the people that also want their products to succeed and to be the very best they can be. So they are usually one of our greatest allies. They will thank you for finding quick wins that can be easily implemented and bring value to the product, that will help in moving forward, keep stakeholders happy, and meet metrics and goals. You may map your stakeholders on a chart between influence and interest as well. When the influence is high, but the interest is rather low, they just need to understand what is happening with the product or within the company. The less worried they are, the better it is for you. For the low influence and low interest, well, don't ignore those people, but you can inform them more occasionally. Just try to include them from time to time. If the influence is low, but the interest is high, keep those people satisfied, informed, when it comes to the current status of the project or something that they reach out to you with. And the last group, the most important one, the people that you want to find in your product or your organization. People that you want to engage, that have high influence and high interest as well. Manage them closely, co-create with them, and update them frequently. And you may take a photo if you want. OK, I said co-create with them. And what I mean by that is that you don't want to just lay out your everything that you worked, final result, without engaging them and making them a part of this process as well. To make them feel that they are also very important and have this influence that I was talking about a while ago. So invite them for workshops, for example, where you can use how might we exercise and just think about different solutions together with them. Or you can measure their influence, how impactful this initiative will be for me. And I use it not for this matter, but this is also very useful to measure the impact of the initiative, but also to showcase different stakeholders, how other stakeholders see the initiative in their very own eyes, just because they have very distinct perspectives and goals as well. And all of that leads to one thing we all adore. We meet in the kitchen, meetings, right? And don't tell me you are a fan of them. There's a reason those cups exist. So, and by the way, the meetings are one of the most expensive things that happen in a company, so make them count. And I was just thinking how to introduce you to the next set of tips that I have. And I thought about how to make meetings great again. So let me share my political program with you. First of all, we need to understand the relationship between attention's level of people and a meeting's length. So it always starts on a very high note. Everyone is interested. You have their 5 seconds of attention. You need to grab it and hold on to it. But it gets downfall from there. It's natural. Everyone becomes exhausted, or maybe they're using their smartphone or something. So we need to interrupt your meeting with different activities. For example, a comic relief, a joke, a meme. There's a reason I use those jokes in my presentation as well. But of course, it always gets downhill from here as well, and you will never come back to the level that you had at the very beginning. But you may engage people with request, a question. Make sure that they interact with you as well. And as the meeting approaches an end and the magic words, "We can wrap up our call," resounds in everyone's ears, the attention comes back to the highest, because everyone just knows when the meetings end, right? And one more thing, something called forgetfulness. If you just have one long monologue and you don't interact with people, and you are not chunking your work into different chapters, you are making it harder to remember. So also including this stuff helps to decrease the effect of forgetfulness as well. And it's important to also showcase for people where you are with your initiative. Are you still figuring things out? Or are you making them happen already? So if you put different opportunities, let's just focus on one of them, off-ramp, so selling crypto asset transactions, user experience. This hill chart, by the way, translates really well into different phases or activities within our companies. So to put it simply, discovery, validation, delivery, or to make it more complicated, different activities such as interviews, prototypes, tests, quality assurance, and finally, doing a great job. What's important is, based on which phase your project is at, it influences the kind of feedback you want and you would ask for. And about asking for a feedback, ask the right questions. So, what do you think? There can be only one reaction. Yeah, a blind stare or blinking. But there's one worse question, and it's coming up. Do you like it? If it had a like button, would you push it? Well, remove this word from your vocabulary and change it completely, because you are referring to the subjectivity of the stakeholder, that's for one, but what is more important, you are also start to look for acceptance. You are no longer viewed as an expert, and you may not realize it, but this is just what happened. So, what questions to ask instead? For example, how does it work for you? So, dig deeper. How will this affect the outcome that we have set? Or why is the alternative better if someone thinks that the other option would be better for you? So about those alternatives, always have them in your ammo. So recently we were experimenting with the way how we display crypto assets within our widget. And there was a question, OK, but why can't we use an outline tag? Or, oh, maybe we can make it colorful. Just link every single chain with a color. Yeah, that looks like a Christmas tree. So maybe this is not the best idea. Or maybe we can unify those network icons, those smaller ones, and make them all in black. But as the research shows, bringing color to these network icons actually eases up the process of scanning the whole list and finding them much quicker. And what I want, one takeaway from that I want you to remember is I don't bring them with me and present every single solution for stakeholder or for the user every single time. I just have them ready. Because if someone mentions this, I am just saying, this is already covered. I tested that. It doesn't work. And here's my data. And then, OK, so we can move with something that you suggest. That's fine. But that's very important. The next tip, remove distractions. I specifically selected one screen that is one of the most complicated in our solution. So we are probably pretty overwhelmed right now, but this is something that I'm dealing with day in, day out. But when I wanted to focus our stakeholders on just one certain thing, it's better to blur out everything or just remove it completely and make them focused on this one particular element. Because I will be talking about different states, right? And it also applies not only to the visual stuff, but also when you are doing your testing. And once I was doing my testing, I was like a rookie at Trump. I just used some dummy data. And they were like, that can't happen. Because he reached the monthly limit, and the transaction is, this can't be valid. And the whole test went into the bin. However, I learned something from that. So it was something about, I heard on this conference, someone was saying, don't use lorem ipsum because of ChatGPT nowadays, but it also influences the testing as well. So to make sure that you are actually using real data that your respondents expect to be there. And you may think, OK, one question that I would ask this guy is, but what if someone disagrees and says no? How to replace a no with yes? Once again, it will be about changing the vocabulary. Should you be a yes man, a character portrayed by Jim Carrey in the movie with the same title and just agree on everything? No, because you will end up doing stuff that you don't agree with and you don't like. So should you just bite your teeth and do that? No, you will be a liar, another character portrayed by Jim Carrey in another comedy from the 90s. So, some practical tips. Whenever someone says no, you can say, yes, that's a very good point. Yes, I agree that we need to solve this. Yes, there are ways we can improve this. What we are doing here, we are agreeing, but not certainly telling or focusing on something that we would do right now. So, yeah, those are the tips. And what not to say? Don't say that someone is wrong, because no one likes to be wrong, because they will become defensive, find ways to communicate a disagreement as an alternative, or a different idea, or a different perspective. When it comes to perspective, avoid saying, from design standpoint, or from design perspective, because for one, it tends to put you above everyone else, and for the other, if you're the only one designer in the team as me, it's just like from my standpoint. And no one cares about my standpoint, we care about user standpoint, right? Lead with a vision. So when I was bringing a solution of the partner portal, there were some people that weren't so excited about it, as this is just MVP. This is just a first iteration, even if we just afford to do this and build at the time. Some people will look towards an end game, a final version, something that will spark some excitement and make them interested in what you're saying. And you don't need to recreate the whole product from scratch. I did that on a hackathon. You can also squeeze in some small things from time to time. For example, displaying a locked user account in the table without visiting user details, or displaying an expiration counter for the customer support agents, informing them in a visual way when transaction is going to expire. And there's the hardest truth of all, that you need to embrace and accept. You may be wrong. If you take a look at the accelerated process of creating a design from start to finish, you don't even agree with yourself, right? So being tangled in the back and forth battle with the ideas that you have, some of them are better, some of them are worse. Sometimes you join them and you create a new one. But how to know if I am wrong? First of all, if you validate your idea with the users, and they don't get it, a problem still exists. That's a great indicator. If you don't get the support from your team, probably the real solution is yet to come and you should work a little bit more. And knowing all of that, let me summarize those and form a final response and rest my case. One of the cartoons that I really liked when I was a kid was Coyote and Roadrunner. In every episode, Coyote was trying to catch Roadrunner to, as you see, eat it. But every time he failed miserably. But what I really liked, and that stood out for me, even at the time, was that he always had a plan. Always was carrying this gigantic blueprint with every idea. And if we imagine a coyote being Tom Griever, design leader, author, and author of the book Articulating Design Decisions, so if you're actually interested in a more sophisticated approach to whatever I was saying today, please take a look at this book. He came up with a plan for ideal response. So let's take a look at it. It's an acronym, and for every letter, there's a tip. I stands for identifying the problem. Make sure your stakeholders are aware of the problem you're addressing. Start with making sure that everyone is on the same page and understands the challenge in the same way. Next, describe the solution. And, most importantly, connect it to the problem that you mentioned previously with a specific design you have created. Make sure everyone understands that connection. Next, empathize with the user. If your stakeholders are not your users, like in my case, they can forget about the connection to the user. So make sure that they remember about the people at the very end of your products. Call the users to mind, remind everyone about them, because those are the people at the center of the process. And next one, appeal to the business. Business is business. It won't exist without growing, and we know that. So if you can describe how your solution affects metrics, KPIs, or other crazy stuff that I have no idea about, demonstrate the value and bring it to the table. And lastly, the most important one, lock in agreement. Don't leave the conversation open, even by asking such a simple question as, do you agree? Thanks to that, you will be safe, you will have it guaranteed, and you will keep the project moving forward. There you have it. Ideal formula for getting your message across. But remember once again about this L, because without it, you will end up having just another, no matter how perfect, idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. It was attractive, funny, but the most important, it was very valuable for us. Thank you for that. If any of you have a question to Jakub. Yes.
I'm all ears.
Hi, Jakub. Thanks for this presentation. On one of the slides, you said that you as a designer should cooperate, co-create with the person who has the highest influence and highest interest. And I'm wondering if you are not afraid that this person will dominate you and force the ideas which are not really good.
Okay, so first of all, one short disclaimer. I was mentioning about engaging the most crucial stakeholders, but let's say this is actually the persona that has the highest influence of all, let's say CEO, just to illustrate it with an example. So actually, there's a reason in one of the methodologies to give this person a super vote, something that is different from the others. On one hand, this feels for them that they are actually more, let's say, valuable, if I can say that, but also that shows where this person would put their impact on, I would say. I can't say we have that case in our company. So I don't have the perfect answer for you, because our CEO and our co-founders actually are very friendly people that really care about the users. But well, what can we do? I don't know. When I was working in an agency and there was this kind of a client that was just forcing his ideas or her ideas on the others, I was just like, who am I to judge, right? That's their business. So if they want to do that, I am giving them the context. I am giving them all the information they need. But the decision is not actually mine. And I'm not taking a risk for it. So I would say either accept it, funny as it may seem, or, I don't know, try to maybe do a little bit of one-on-one engaging session if this person has the time. And because people will tell you different things if you meet them one by one. Each time when I held some kind of a workshop, people tend to come to me after the workshop, and then the most valuable insights come, not within the exercises, but just after. So then I thought, okay, so maybe sometimes it's better to engage people separately so they won't be biased by other people as well. And then I am concluding the final statement, bring it to the table, as I was mentioning, but the decision, unfortunately, is not mine, and I'm not fighting for it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Does anyone else has a question? There's. Yep, here.
Okay, thank you. It was a very nice presentation, and I actually wanted to ask you one question about gathering ideas, because you have mentioned about this opportunity tree, but it sounds quite complicated sometimes to, get it working within the company once you have different, let's say, teams which work.
Yeah, exactly the situation I'm in.
Okay, and how did you solve it?
Okay, so there was one thing that I took out from the presentation to make sure that I can finish on time. But I was speaking about I wanted to speak about prioritizing opportunities. Look up something that is called RISE score or ICE score, and it's acronym for reach, impact, confidence, and ease and effort. If you drop the R, the RISE becomes ICE. And we dropped R because, to shock everyone, my users is like maybe 98 of people, like those employees which I mentioned, those are my most crucial users. So the reach doesn't really make sense, because if we have customer support, which is like 20 people, and we have crypto and treasury people, which is like 3 of them, every single time the reach of customer support increased the score so much that only their initiatives were the most crucial. So the takeaway would be, take a look at RISE, ICE score, impact effort matrix. There are, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. There are solutions are already on the market. Take a look, and probably it will solve your problem by prioritizing that. But that was something that I needed to remove, unfortunately.